The crypto crash continues, but I do think we could potentially be getting towards a bottom here. I want to show you exactly what I'm looking at that could indicate that, because historically this metric has been wildly accurate, and so I am still pretty confident that we could be towards the bottom. But again, we never know for sure. So I did want to show you all of the things that I am looking at and the things that I will be continuing to look at in certain targets and levels that I'm going to be hyper focused on as we start to get there. So let's go ahead, we'll dive right on in. I want to take a look at the crypto bubbles first to show you kind of what we've got today. Now, of course, a pretty punishing sell-off today after a punishing sell-off yesterday and the day before that. It has been a pretty difficult time in the crypto market, which is slightly concerning given the fact that the stock market really hasn't actually had too difficult of a time. We have seen some general levels of sell-offs in the stock market, but it hasn't been as difficult as what we've seen here in the crypto market. So that is one of the main things that I am looking at right now, is how do we continue to see the crypto market kind of diverge from the traditional like stock markets and whatnot, or do we see the stock markets kind of continue to go down with crypto? If we see the markets continue to go down with crypto, I'm not particularly too worried about it, because I do think that we will have a quicker and a stronger policy response than if just crypto is going down. So this is something that is very important to watch, and I'm going to be keeping a very close look on. Now, of course, on the week we can see it's been a tough week. You can see anywhere between, Bitcoin down 11%, BNB down 12. We see things like Solana here down 15. We'll have to find Ethereum somewhere, but I'm sure Ethereum's down probably a similar amount. And then we have some of these smaller altcoins that are, down 30% and another 30%, 40%, 25%. So, I mean, it has been definitely a pretty difficult week in crypto. And then, of course, this is leading to a very rough month where we're seeing everything is kind of averaging anywhere between 30 and 50% down, which is pretty wild. So we do have a couple greens here and there, but the majority of the market is down a pretty decent bit. We also can see Ethereum down 8% as well. So actually Ethereum holding up better than what we're seeing out of Bitcoin and Solana, which is pretty interesting. That is giving us some of this like Ethereum strength still, which does potentially tell us that we could be positioned for an alt season move, and this could just be kind of a fake out before we get there. Again, we have no idea for knowing for sure, but that is very interesting to see that Ethereum is holding up relatively better than Bitcoin, which is very unusual and does not happen very frequently. So I want to go take a look at the Bitcoin chart specifically, because this is a lot of what we're going to be looking at. So the big thing here that I wanted to point out is kind of, well, two things. First thing, we had this 107,000 level that we were looking to stay at, or looking to hold at. That of course did not happen. So now we're kind of looking towards this 105,000 level. Now we did wick below it for a while. We have come above it. You could see we were overextended outside of the Bollinger Bands at that point as well on the daily. So maybe we look to see us to find a support here at the 105,000 range. It's hard to say for sure, but we have seen a pretty nice kind of bid up of the price here after this kind of liquidation and selling pressure here. We will also take a look at liquidations, because a bunch of money has been liquidated recently. If we cannot hold up at this 105,000 key level, then there's kind of two things that I would be looking to see next. First off, you can see I actually did draw an extension of this descending wedge, or this descending channel, excuse me. You can see we did do a break outside of the descending channel when we saw that short squeeze, but then of course we've actually come right back in it. You can see that on our pump up, we actually were rejected 3 times consecutively by the top level of this descending channel. So that is very important to understand. And then we could see that if we continue to drag out even towards the end of the month here, there's a very strong possibility that we could see kind of a confluence of potentially this $100,000 key psychological support for Bitcoin, as well as potentially the bottom of this descending channel. We have not actually hit the bottom yet. This wick got us close, but not quite towards the bottom here. So I do think that there could potentially be a setup coming for where we see a confluence of the of Bitcoin hitting this channel, or hitting this liquidity zone, hitting the bottom of this channel, and then potentially bouncing. Now you'll see here, instead of this bright line, which I did put as kind of like a best fit, I did also put a channel here because this area is very much like a liquidity zone. We can see here anywhere from a high of about 101.5 thousand to a low of about 99,000. I would say anything in this range we can't necessarily take too seriously in terms of confirmation of a break or a rejection or anything like that. So we'll have to just keep a very close eye here. Now, the reason I'm focusing on Bitcoin specifically is because we are now back at a point where Bitcoin decides everything. If Bitcoin breaks below, bull market's very likely over. I mean, we can go back and we could see things as low as maybe even kind of the mid 80s, maybe the low 90s. There are various kind of key levels that we could hit and still sustain a possible bounce back to the upside. But at least right now, from what we're seeing, if we do break below this 100,000 level, it's very likely that we continue to see a much further drop, probably down into the mid 80s is most likely. We could potentially even see something as low as kind of the mid 70s like we saw back in April, but we really don't know for sure. So we're going to be keeping a very close eye on what happens here. I am still kind of in the camp that we likely see a support level here at the 100 range if we're going to see it. That's kind of how I'm viewing it. If we don't see it, then things are about to get a lot worse for Bitcoin and even worse for altcoins. So this is a point in time. This is why I say everything kind of depends on Bitcoin, because we're at a point in time right now where if Bitcoin holds, then altcoins might be all right? I mean, we might still see a little bit of bleeding and things like that while we're consolidating and trying to find some more support to get back to the upside. But if Bitcoin does not hold and it breaks, well, then we're going to see a large correction in Bitcoin, which is very likely going to lead to an even larger correction in all of the other alts. So it's very, very important to see what happens here for Bitcoin, because the other thing that we need to understand is even if Bitcoin just kind of does this in sideways chops between here and there, usually, again, this time could be different. Who knows? You know, it's crypto, anything could happen. But usually that is not a condition for altcoins to make their run, right? I mean, usually if we're seeing Bitcoin consolidate, it's at or near all-time highs, and then we let other altcoins kind of rotate out. And generally Bitcoin has already kind of broken, and not even broken, but kind of smashed new all-time highs, right? So we're really not in the condition for that at all. If we were to chop around in this range, Bitcoin's going to be close to 20% off of its all-time highs. And so that's not really the conditions for altcoins to make a run. So if we need altcoins, or if we want altcoins to make a run, it's very, very likely that we need to see Bitcoin break out of this descending channel. We need to see it go up to all-time highs, crush through all-time highs, and ideally come up and maybe consolidate anywhere between like the 135 to 150 range. That would be kind of best case scenario for an altcoin season type of run. Now, also, if we'll go look at the altcoins to show you kind of exactly what we're seeing here. So we have seen, of course, we had that massive liquidation event a week ago, and then we did see a little bit of that jump up. We got rejected at around the $1.1 trillion range. And now, similar to what we're seeing on Bitcoin, we are finding a key level of support at around the 950 billion range, hoping that we can hold here. If we can't, of course, then we might see further drops below this. If we do see further drops below, I'm imagining it'll probably be the 860-ish million range first. Maybe we could even kind of bring it up like into this range, maybe like the 900 billion. It's hard to say. It's not exactly super clear. And then next, maybe we see something kind of like here, I would say, kind of in like the 830 or 840 to like 855 billion range. Those would probably be the next two kind of key targets here. Now, of course, we could always see potentially altcoins come down and touch the liquidated low, or the wick here that we saw. This would get us all the way down to about 760-ish billion dollars. Coincidentally, this is actually a very similar number to what we saw in February when we saw that other massive liquidation push. So we'll have to see kind of exactly what happens here. But things are definitely looking a little bit precarious and a little bit dangerous for both Bitcoin and altcoins. So you just need to very much make sure that you're paying attention and that you're keeping up to date with what's going on here. Now, of course, if you are interested, I do cover this type of stuff very frequently. I have multiple daily videos that come out, so feel free to hit that subscribe button if you're wanting to stay up to date with what is going on here. Now, Before we wrap the video, I did want to show you one other key thing that I have been doing as far as my strategy, and then also looking at liquidation. So I have continued to DCA on my Bitcoin strategy. For those of you who've been following, I have been kind of buying Bitcoin longs, very, very low leverage Bitcoin longs, as we've kind of made our way down here, just because we don't really know where the bottom is. You know, it could have been here at 110, could have been here at 107. Now maybe it's here at 105. Who really knows for sure? So we'll have to see kind of exactly where that goes. But that is what I've been ultimately looking to do. As we've seen this thing come down, I've been DCing in very low leverage longs. If you are interested, of course, I do have those links in the description below if you want to kind of start to DCA while we are moving down. Now, again, there's no guarantee that this type of strategy works out. I am just betting that long-term Bitcoin is very bullish, and then we will see a move back to the upside. There's no guarantees at all, so there is inherent risk in everything, of course. But if you are interested, I do have those links, and we do have that 10% deposit bonus for BTCC if you are interested. BTCC is the place that has the best referral rewards for us by far. So if you are interested and you're looking for a great value, BTCC would be a great place to do so. Now, moving along, I wanted to go and cover the final point that I have looking at liquidations. Now, of course, you can see here at the very top, another $1 billion liquidated in the past 24 hours. Absolutely insane stuff. We'll actually go take a look at it really quick. And you can see, unsurprisingly, it's all longs because we have our majority longs because we have seen such a push down to the downside. Now, this is what I was talking about. We go back to my videos from a couple of days ago and you can see exactly what we were talking about. I had mentioned that we would be seeing a push potentially down into that 105 range because there was still so much liquidity. There was such bearish pressure that getting a move down to that range would not be particularly difficult. And what do you know? Well, if we go back, we actually saw lows as low as 103,500. So it actually went even slightly below what we'd kind of expected based on our prior videos. But the move did happen because of kind of what we were expecting. Now, if you look, you can see we do actually have more longs piling in, almost at $1.5 billion. So again, we could see further sweeps of these lows again to continue to clear out leverage here. Now, what we can see though is leverage continues to pile up on the upside with shorts. We can see here there's an absolutely insane amount of shorts. Even if we were to get price back to 108,000, we have finally gotten to the point at where a short-term move in either direction is actually more beneficial moving to the upside. So even though we do have $1.5 billion here within striking distance of the downside, we have over 2 billion within striking distance to the upside. So I do think that this is finally the time at which we might start to see a push up. It's really very hard to say for sure, but this is, I think a move to the upside, sustained or not, I do think a move to the upside is definitely on the cards here. So we'll have to see. If we look here at the 7-day, you will see it's even more skewed than the 1-day with almost 15 billion, or I guess close to $14 billion in short liquidations going to the upside here. Again, a massive amount, most of it coming at around the 116,000 range. So if we get back to the 116,000 range, a bunch of money is going to get liquidated here. Same thing with the 30-day. If we look at the 30-day, it's even more skewed with the liquidation numbers being almost 20 billion, and all of this coming before all-time highs that we have seen within just the past couple of weeks. So again, 19.85 billion to be liquidated. And again, even just kind of within striking distance, we're looking at 1.65, even up to almost 3 billion sub $110,000 Bitcoin. So there's a massive amount of liquidations here to the upside that I think we can see. Now, again, there are still liquidations to the downside, about 2.5 billion, but when you compare 2.5 billion to 20, I think it's fairly clear which direction we might see, from at least from a market maker's type of perspective. So this is what I'm keeping a very, very close eye on. I do think it is possible that we start to see a slight reversal. Again, these liquidation charts have historically been incredibly accurate, basically dead on. The problem is we don't know exactly when, and we don't know exactly how low we can go before this starts to turn around. Generally, what I use as kind of a slight indicator for predicting a bottom is the very short-term liquidity moves. How much can be gained from, like, let's say $1,000 or $2,000 push in either direction. So as long as that starts to kind of even out, then we can start to look at the bigger picture, which is where is the majority of the liquidity at. And currently, that is definitely in shorts. So that is what I'm going to be looking at very, very closely. Again, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you're looking to stay up to date with all of this type of stuff that we have going on, feel free, drop that subscribe, hit that notification bell, all of that type of stuff, and you'll stay up to date with everything that we have going on here. Crypto is a crazy place. It's always changing. So if you're looking for that kind of reliable daily updates, you can find them here. Also, I would love to hear any comments that you have. Everything is crazy right now. I know we're all trying to figure out, is it over? Is it not? Is this a bull trap? Is this a bear trap? Who knows? It's really, really hard to say. But at least for right now, I remain somewhat, I guess I should say I remain cautiously optimistic that we can still see a move to the upside. But again, we really don't know. We have to kind of take it as it comes. If we start to see breaks below the $100,000 range, I think there is very much cause to be concerned, and we should take a very close look at that. As of right now, at least, we're doing all right, relatively speaking, and so we will just kind of continue to go from there. So overall, like I said, any comments that you have, whether your thoughts on whether we're at the bottom or any of that type of stuff, I'd love to hear. And then also, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.